Hey guys, it's famousandunique.com and my name is Brian Hunt, bringing you another Motion 5 tutorial. Today I figured we would mix it up a little bit and talk about blood hits. Now we're going to be using a couple of different things to get our overall appearance and accomplish this blood hit. Now keep in mind, we're not doing this for a Hollywood film, so I will be moving quite quickly through this process. I just figured I would share it with you guys, so if you wanted to try to create your own blood hits, then you can follow these steps and create your own nice blood hits. So let's get started. I have Motion 5 that I've already opened up just to show you my settings. Let's go to Project and Inspector, and right here you can see my width is 1280 by 720. Frame rate is 30 frames per second. Duration is 10 seconds long. And let me close this out for a minute so I can go and grab my footage, and let's get started. So opening back up Motion, I'm going to just drag my footage into Motion, and as you can see, this isn't the greatest footage. I just shot it not long ago for the purposes of this tutorial, just to share with you guys, and I haven't done any cropping. I haven't shortened it or lengthened it or got it the way I wanted it yet. So this is absolutely from start to finish tutorial. You know, you watch some tutorials and you come in and the guys already have the clip selected, everything in place, everything in the timeline, and then they just try to walk over the process with you to show how they got the end result. For me, it doesn't work like that. I don't like watching tutorials that go like that, because some of them take a lot of steps to get to the point to where they first start showing you guys what to do, and it kind of leaves you baffled. And when you're talking about effects and you know, dealing with different shots and all of this, if you have something just a little off, it's not going to give you the end result you were looking for. So we're going to do it from start to finish. So let's stroll through our footage, and you will see me walking into the clip. You will see me acting like I got hit with some force from a bullet. And so what we're going to do is we're going to shorten this clip to here, because we don't need anything before that. And we're going to stroll on over till we find a good part where we think is good. Right there, be fine. Let me drag this over so I can shorten that guy. I didn't realize it was that long. Let's see. Shorten this. And let's shorten it a little bit more. And right here be fine. So let's drag here. And then let's move it into 0. So if we hit play, our space bar kind of plays through nicely, and let's adjust our length here to the length of our timeline, and let's see what we have. So yeah, so that's good. So now that we have that out the way, we can start bringing in our different effects. Now the first effect, what I'm going to bring in, and I'm going to be using Action Essentials. You can do a Google search for it and go out and buy it. It's a great thing to have when working with special effects, especially if you don't have that long a time to try to create a good result. You can just incorporate the different things, so let's look at that for a moment. I already have it pulled up here. Now in Action Essentials, you will see that you have different categories you know, that you can use in the different effects that you're trying to create. I mean, there's so much on here, I'm not going to go over everything, but we're just going to be using what's in the blood folder. And let's go to Bloodburst 10 and let's drag that in. I think that's what I want to use. But hey guys, this is all trial and error. You know, I like I said, this wasn't set up before you guys press play. I don't like to do my tutorials like that. I like to go through everything, you know, from start to finish. So let's drag this in and see what we have. We want it on top of the subject, which is me, and we don't want to put it in the same folder. We want to drag up till you see that little blue line, which means it's going to create its own folder. And now that we have that, you can see the blood coming in. Now we don't want it here. We want it where you see my body jerk like I'm getting hit. So what I want to do right now is I want to turn this off, and I want to stroll through where it, right there where it looks like I'm getting hit, about right here. And we don't want this blood burst to last too long, because you don't want me to get hit and drop and it still be there. So we want to shorten it up a little bit also, but for the time being, let's drag this here. And you can see that little banner above my arrow when I'm dragging it. It tells you in and out. So you see our frames is at 17. We're at 17 frames. So if you click this and drag it, you want to drag it till it says in 17. So now if we turn this back on, boom, you can tell it looks like you know, you got hit with some sort of weapon or projectile. So let's do it at regular speed, and we're going to blur this, and we're going to add some different things to it. So don't worry about the appearance right now. Let me drop down this so I have a little bit more to work with, and let's go out on our frame, and let's stretch this out a little just to give it a different look. Like right here, let's make it where it shoots up like around her face a little bit. Looks good. Alright, now what we want to do is we want some sort of effect behind us, because if a bullet hits you and goes past or through your tissue, then you know it's going to leave a hole while exiting, which would in return leave a mark on the wall. So how are we going to accomplish that? How are we going to get that behind the subject and not in front of us? Well, I'm glad you asked. We're going to do a little bit of rotoscoping, and that is going to let us place an object behind the subject. And so this process can be a little time consuming. It's not that fast to process, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you, but I'm going to show you how to get it started, and let's go from there. So let's shut this group off, and first let's name this so we can keep up with what we have going on. Let's name this Blood Hit, and let's name this Main Clip. And what we want to do here is we want to duplicate this, and we want to, my mouse is stuck here. Let's see. Okay, now we're back, and we'll leave this copy. And with this selected, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our masking tool, and we're going to go to Bezier Mask. Now we don't need to do it from start to end. We just need to go where the actual footage is going to be placed, the actual effect. So that's going to start right here where we have the other one, and we're going to zoom in, and we don't have to do the whole body, guys. We're just going to go from here down to our waist, because we just want to be able to place an effect that appears to be behind the subject and not in front like this. So let's shut the blood hit off, let's zoom in, Command plus, and let's start placing a mask around the body. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to try to get it as straight as possible. The straighter you can get this, the more you're going to be able to sell the effect, and the less someone's eyes isn't going to try to find the errors in the effect. Because let's face it, when you make a movie or any sort of effect and people find it interesting, they're always going to try to replay and figure out how you did the effect. I remember watching movies when I was a kid. We used to rewind, fast forward, stop, play, slow-mo to try to see how an effect was created, because of course we wanted to create that same effect ourselves. So I remember watching a few movies when I was younger, when Hollywood Films was not that in tune with special effects, and we used to be able to find errors and different things of that nature. So keep that in mind when you are doing special effects, to try to do it as cleanly as possible, so you can get the best result. So now that this is done here, we have our mask here, and what we're going to do, we're going to animate our mask. So when I move, the mask moves, and this is the process that's going to take the longest time. I'm going to do a couple of frames, and then I'm going to cut it, and I'll bring it back in when I'm done. So here we started the masking at 17 frames. So what I want to do, I don't want to go frame by frame by frame, we'd be here all day. So what I want to do is move forward, let's say about to 25 frames, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to adjust the mask to fit my body. And what happens is, when you skip frames like that, motion will actually try to remember from start to this point, and it will adjust it for you. Now you might have to go in in between some of those and do some manual adjustments, but sometimes it's spot on. Now I did forget one thing before I started this. Let's go back to 17 frames and let's move this back here. Okay, yeah, that's good. Now before we start animating this mask, we want to come over here, select record, and we want to set a keyframe for control points. Now we can move in a little bit to say 22 frames. Now when we move this here, you can see that it is saving the position prior and currently, so it will be able to manipulate the movement as we go here. So now with that done, I'm going to cut it out here, and I'll come back once I'm done with this. Alright guys, now that we have that out of the way, this is what it looks like. And you can see how the mask is moving with my body. As I move, the mask slowly forms around me. And this is going to allow us to place an object behind this mask, and essentially this mask here, just think of this as a solid, and anything you place in between your main copy or your main clip and your copy of your main clip, anything you place in the middle of these two is going to be behind this mask. So if we want, once we get hit with the projectile, if we want this to leave a splat on the wall, this is going to allow us to accomplish that. So let's bring in a splat, and let's use splat 1, and we're going to bring this in, and I've already created another group. As you can see, it's in between my main clip and my main clip copy, which was duplicate I made from this. I've already created a group and put it in the middle between these two, so I'm going to drag this blood splat onto that group. Now when we move through the timeline, we're going to have to reposition the splat, but when we move through, if we put it here, and if you remember, it was 17 frames in when the blood burst started. If we move it here, and move this behind, put it behind our mask, and we're going to have to do a little adjustment on the mask itself, because even though it hides it, again, like I said before we started, this isn't going to be perfect because I don't want to take the time to make it perfect. But you can see as I'm moving down, it's revealing the splat that is behind me. And to clear this up a little bit, what we're going to do is we're going to shorten it a little bit. And if I was doing this for real, I wouldn't never use this clip, you know, anyway. It's bad lighting and everything else. But if you can see, if we move this over here, the mask is hiding it, leaving the object behind the subject. Now if we put it here, let's scroll back and see if we hide this, then it looks like, you know, bam, and then as soon as the hit, it looks like it's coming from my back. Now you can see it's got a little overlay onto the subject. So the way to fix that is we're going to go to our mask and we're going to turn the feather out a little, and that's going to get it off of our subject. And then let's see, once we move this down, it looks like it's left it on the wall. So let's double check this and make sure it's good. And that looks good. Now if we were, say, you know, in a different scenario, what I would do to make this stick to that wall if I was having an issue with it is I would motion track this footage, and I would apply this this object here, the blood splat. I would apply that to the motion tracking data, which would in return hold the object in place wherever you would track. So if I track this area here, being that this object is staying still, and I applied that tracking data to this object would not move. But in this circumstance, we don't need to do any tracking because it looks fairly decent for your first blood hit. So now with that done, now we could add a little bit more color to this because it doesn't look like blood to me, and a good way to do that is to match it up with the same color as your initial hit right here. This looks more like blood to me than that. So what we want to do is find our blood splat, go to our library, filters, color correction, and colorize, and let's add a colorize to that, and let's match the color of this to this here, and we're also going to do the bottom color as well to that same color. And now we've got a little bit more red here. Another thing we could do is we could add a blur to this to where it's not as sharp. You can still, your audience will get the picture, but they won't be able to pick and pull every little thing apart in your scene. So let's click on blood splat again. Let's go to library, blur, and let's put a soft blur on here. We don't want much, just a little bit. Let's put it at about 20 should be fine. And you can tell once we move, we still got a little bit of play in between the subject and the splat. And a good way to fix this is to start here and just kind of play it by ear. Now you got to think you're going to be moving pretty fast, so you're not going to really be able to pick up on it. But let's start here, and let's go to our mask, and let's go to our feather, and let's set a keyframe here, and let's press the record button, and let's move it a little bit, and let's play with the feather a little bit to get that blood splat to stay kind of tight to us. Move a little bit more down. And here it's bleeding onto the subject, so now we want to go the other way with the feather, or go out just a little, and let's go a little bit further here. Just take it in a little. Let's go here. Let's bring it in a little. And now essentially the blood splat stays tighter on your subject, but doesn't bleed over onto your subject. So you want it to stay as tight as you can, but you don't want it to bleed over on your subject. And here our mask again isn't that perfect because I didn't take that much time to do it, so we have a little bit of bleed over here. But if we come here to our feather and crank this up a little bit, then it does take care of it a little bit. Now here we can bring the feather in a little bit so it's not so drastic. Now let's take a look at it. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Now, with that being done, what we want to do essentially now is we want to doctor the front up a little bit, and how we're going to do that, we're going to add once the projectile hits the subject, we want this also blurred a little bit. We don't want this to appear too sharp, so we're going to add a blur here. Let's do let's try defocus, and that's a little bit well, let's see. That's pretty good actually. So let's leave it set at 12 and the gain at 2, Yeah, that looks quite nice. And another thing I want to add is, you know, if a person got hit by a projectile in real life, it's going to leave like a cloud, or a mist, if you will, with the coming off of the subject. So in order to accomplish this, what we want to do is we want to add a almost type of smoke or a dust or anything you can find that we can kind of bring out of focus, add a blur to, stretch it so it looks like you know, it's just like a mist has been sprayed around the subject. So for this, I'm going to go back to Action Essentials, and I'm going to go to Dust Elements, and I just want to find not much, just a little dust that I can distort to give it that mist look, and I will also will tint it to make it look red as well. So let's drag this in and see what this does for us. Excuse me. So, oh yeah, that's way too much. We don't need that. So let's take that out, and let's go to, let's try a different one. Let's try dust at cam here. See how dramatic this is. Yeah, that's not what we want. That's way too much also. So again, you know, like I said before we started, this is all trial and error, guys, you know, and this is what you're going to be facing as well, you know, and again, there's no right or wrong way to do this, but you do want to take your audience into consideration. You might want to ask a family member or a friend, you know, say, hey, check out this, you know, tell me if you see anything this out of the ordinary or doesn't look convincing, and then fix it, you know, and work from that. So let's try, let's see what dust wave looks like. Now this we might be able to work with. What we want to do is we want this to be all the way you know, extended from the get-go. We don't want this to start, so let's turn back off. Remember, I always forget this, but remember to turn your record button off when you're bringing in new stuff and everything, because if you don't, when you move something or adjust it, it's going to remember it, and then everything is going to be off whack. So I apologize for that, but remember that. So now with this dust thing here, we're going to shorten this up and bring it to here to 102, and we're going to bring this into here, and we only want this to last one frame. We just want this to be like a poof and then gone. So what we want to do in this scenario is come in closer, and you can see that these are set up in frames. You know, this would be a frame, a frame, a frame, a frame. So let's drag this guy into here, and let's bring this guy to there. This is a frame. So, or two frames rather, I'm sorry. This is two frames, so this would be two frames. So let's drag this in one more down. This is one frame, and this is just going to give us that poof type that we want to. We want it to have the appearance that you know, our subject is actually getting hit. Alright, sorry about that, I had to take a break. Now with this already extended and we've already got it shrunk to one frame, now what we want to do is drag this to 17 because that's where we started our other effects in at 17 frames. So drop it here, and now we're going to want to move it and place it where we want it. Let's bring it in front of our actor. Let's shrink it. And let's go this way with it as well. Let's go here. About here, and let's bring it a little bit bigger. About here, and let's set this to screen. And if you right click on your effect here, right click, go down to blend mode, and let's set it to screen. This is going to lighten it up a little bit from the get-go. And let's colorize this. Filters, color correction, and colorize. And we're just going to go in here and play with the colors until we get that light red mist we want. And we're also going to end up having to change the opacity so it's not as strong. Let's go here and let's change the opacity. Let's bring this down to, you just want like a light mist. And let's see what we got. And let's stretch this guy a little bit out, a little bit further, so it's not as intense. And we could go and add another mask, a circle mask, and we could feather it so it gives it that. Yeah, let's do that, and that's going to give us a little bit more control over the shape of this. Let's go to our circle mask, and let's create a small circle like that, and let's feather this mother up. Let's bring it to about there, and that takes the, you know, the shape out of it, so it's not so dramatic, you know, and you can't tell that it's a square. Let's see what we have now. Command question mark to take all this off the screen so you can see what you have. Now let's go back to command question mark again. Let's bring it back, and let's stretch this out a little. Hold down Alt, and let's go up with it. Yeah, that's better. Let's go up instead of out, and then command question mark to take that away. And see, we're still getting some bleed through on that, so let's try to fix this a little bit better, or make it more presentable. Let's see if that took it away. Yeah, we don't have as much, so that'll do here. Give us that red mist, and we want to fade this out a little bit more. We don't want it still, it's too dark. Or turn the opacity down rather. Just a light mist. Okay, and that'll be good for that. And we can still add a blur to this as well, a soft blur maybe, or a defocus rather. Let's turn the amount up to about 25, and that gives it a lot better transition while the effect is taking place. And we can still see a little bit of bleed through. I want to fix that real quick. I'm just a control freak. I like everything to be as crisp as I can get it, even though this isn't for real. But turn the mask or the feather down a little bit. And that'll be good right there. Alright guys, so that's it. That wraps up this tutorial. I think I've kept you guys long enough. Thank you for sticking around and checking it out. Again, my name is Brian Hunt, and when you get a minute, go check out my website at famousandunique.com. Leave comments and questions if you have them in the thing below, and make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm just starting to bring you guys tutorials, and if you guys want to keep seeing them, the likes and you subscribing helps a lot. It shows me that you guys want to actually learn more and learn what I'm trying to teach, so I would appreciate it. And yeah, so I appreciate it, and thanks again.